So I'm going to leave it to you now, Dave, and you can walk us through your presentation or what you'd like to tell us about this company. Then after, maybe I'll have a few questions.
Sure. It's an interesting, a really interesting project, actually, and it does go back again to my years with Naranda Falconbridge, and as the global exploration manager with Falconbridge, and obviously this was a very, very important part of the world for Falconbridge with the Collahuasi deposit and the smelter in Antofagasta and Lomas Bayas, and we had the El Morro discovery here, and very, very active in this part of the world. An early colleague in my career by the name of Vernon Arsenault was the chief operating officer of this company, and he actually was transferred there by Naranda to open the exploration office in Santiago way back. So we're going back 25 years or so. And he ended up marrying down there and stayed. So he's essentially a local. And really through his relationships and the trust that he's been able to build up with people over the years, that's allowed us to kind of get this deal together. It's in Chile, in the coastal copper belt. So that's important for a number of reasons. Chile, of course, is the most prolific copper producing region in the world. But a lot of it is from the high Andes, 4,000 meter elevation and a couple of mountain ranges between you and the coast and things like that, and very high capital, very expensive. We're actually in the coastal belt, only 25 kilometers from a port. It's a paved road to more or less to the property. We're about 45 kilometers north of the, I guess you would call it, city of Copiapó, which is a long-term mining city. There's smelting facilities there, etc. And in fact, the vendor and local miners in the region are still direct shipping ore, that's 12% copper from this property to those facilities. Under the terms of our agreement, we allow them to take up to 120 tons a day. So just a very small amount, but it does keep a few people employed and the community involved in the mining license.
So you've got people that are basically hand mining there, 12% copper?
Yeah, that's what they ship to the smelter. That's the cutoff.
Wow. Okay.
And as we go through the story, let's talk a little bit about the capital structure. It's a new company, so it's quite tightly held. Common shares outstanding around 66 million. There's about 3.7 million options, about 2 million warrants, not including the ongoing financing, which we only raised another $5 million at 45 cents. So it's not going to be a massive change to the capital structure. Of that, about 20 million of those shares are escrowed for 3 years. So it is a very tightly held company, and the 40-cent round that we did in April, or I guess it was escrowed till April, was almost all institutional, and primarily investors that said they would be in for the long haul in terms of as the project grows and needs capital, they want to participate in future financing. So it's a very good capital structure for an early stage company. We're in an area surrounded by major deposits, obviously being in this part of Chile. Candelaria is probably the most important one. It's the Lundin operation. It's also an IOCG, so that's why we point to that one. People who've been involved with Miramaca, which is north of us near Antofagasta, that's a similar type of deposit. One that we look at, which is Michiai, which is not as well known now because it's mined, I think, for 50 years already, and it's kind of coming to its end, but it was a wonderful deposit and could be the type of thing that we would come up with here. Typically, you're looking at a copper gold association in this part of the world for these deposits, so it's a nice type of concentrate to produce with an oxide at the surface. And we're located in the Atacama Desert, and it is real desert. It's one of the drier places on Earth. There's no vegetation. There's no land use competition really. There's no agriculture. There's really no plant vegetation or fauna of any kind because of the nature of the terrain. And so mining is the basic industry for this part of Chile, all of northern Chile. And luckily, they're endowed with fantastic deposits. The thing that really caught our attention is that this project has been recognized for over a century as a place for high-grade artisanal type mining of the veins. Over that period, though, these decades, they've actually identified this vein system that they've mined now along over 6 kilometers on. And it's like a horsetail of vein structures that cross each other that's over 2 kilometers wide. So that's already a major copper system. And all of these major deposits, even the porphyries in this region, you do, in every one of them, you have artisanal mining. It was either there first or is around them. And nobody's really examined this area looking for what's the source of all this copper. So we have done the first systematic work on this now, and the first thing that we identified is actually, so we've got this, what we call the northeast trend. It's this 6 kilometer by 2.5 kilometer wide mineralized structural trend, obviously trending northeast, southwest. At the south end of the property, about 6 kilometers from the southern part of where this trend disappears under the sand, we've identified another trend that's running almost perpendicular. Structurally, it would be not quite perpendicular, but it also appears to be one of these major mineralized trends of veins. Again, this is not our focus. What we are really after is that world-class deposit. So we've now covered the property with very detailed mag survey. It's 20-meter line spacing with continuous readings along the lines. And with that, we have identified a number of targets, about 5 really. But right where these two mineralized trends intersect, there's an extremely compelling target that is over 4 kilometers in an arcuate sort of form in east-west and about 2.5 kilometers thick or wide. And that is the scale of, a major deposit of this type. That could be, if it is all mineralized, 500 million to well over 1 billion tons in this part of the world. And even a number of the other smaller targets we've identified, they're all kind of 2 kilometers by 750 meter type targets. So you're still looking at multi-100 million ton type potential. So that's the stage we're at. We now have completed IP. So the mag tells us, okay, you've got a buildup of metals, magnetic metals, which is a characteristic signature for these targets. The IP actually detects sulfides.
Is that because of the magnetite in these type of systems?
Yeah, typically all of these systems. And this is a very quiet geological environment. We don't have a lot of mafic rocks, which typically are magnetite rich. In fact, we don't have really any. So it's actually a very quiet magnetic environment. So the anomalies typically must be related to some sort of alteration system related to hopefully mineralization. The top 120 meters, more or less, in these areas are oxide, so they're not a good target for IP. But below them, of course, the sulfides have not been oxidized. And again, the IP array that we've laid out sees down at least 400 meters, if not deeper, and we're seeing very good IP anomalies associated with this mag, direct correlation. So it's a very compelling situation. You've got 6 kilometers of high-grade veins striking away from this thing to the northeast. We've got high-grade veins. And then when I say high-grade, we've been able to sample, if you look on the website and the presentation, values up to 30% copper in these workings. That's not an average grade by any means, but I mean, there's very high-grade material here. And the biggest thing is it's so extensive. To drive mineralization in any system for 6 kilometers, that tells you that you had a major pump and a major source to do that.
Yeah, I actually I researched that before I made my investment. I have the high grade results here, basically running down. You've got this is the vein system that David was talking about, the horsetail veins there. A little over a meter of 36% copper, half a meter of 30% copper, 1 meter of 24% copper, 0.65 meters of 18% copper, 2 meters of 14% copper, 3 meters of 10% copper, 1 meter of 9% copper. This goes on and on and on and on. It's really a super high grade copper system. No wonder that they're mining with a 12% cutoff grade, which is
the direct ship to the smelter, they have to reach 12%.
Yeah, so
that's the basis for that. Otherwise, they have to mill it, right? So they can direct smelt that grade.
Yeah, so you've got high grade vein systems, basically striking out from this huge anomaly where you've got two structures meeting perpendicularly. Now, the importance of as a geologist, when two structures meet, is that the best environment usually for fluid flows, or?
Yeah, well, basically, if you look at IOCG deposits, they tend to be they're part of the broader porphyry class. If you want, they're an end member. They typically are porphyries come up through the crust through a structure. The granite comes up and sets up this huge circulation system in the groundwater. So you've got this magmatic input of copper fluid, but you also leach a whole bunch of copper for a wide area and deposit it. With IOCGs, it's mostly that magmatic fluid. It tends to be more contained. And what we see here is it's the same sort of thing. These fluids exploit the path of least resistance. So the reason that there's this northeast trending 6 kilometers is probably because there were faulting related to that trend through there that created porosity for the fluids to easily travel along, whereas the granites around it are quite tight. And that's what gives you that locus. And similarly with what we call the Gloria trend, which is the one that's running perpendicular, you've got a structure along there that allows the fluids to easily travel. Right where these two structural trends intersect, of course, you've got an even better situation because you've got probably double the influence in terms of breaking up the rock and brecciation and just creating a crustal weakness for the fluids to exploit. That's the kind of ground position that gives you that locus of huge fluid flow that can deposit a major deposit. So geologically, I mean, let's face it, we're all dreamers, but this is one of the most compelling targets I've seen in my career. And to be located in this region in Chile, surrounded by, really, there are billion-ton mines in this area. Porphyries and IOCGs, and probably another 30 to 35 current and past producers, smaller mid-sized mines in the region as well. I mean, it's a very well-endowed area for copper. And these deposits typically do persist to depths of a kilometer, if not more. I mean, often you don't discuss deeper than a kilometer because they don't mine deeper than that. But in Chile, actually, the big deposits go much deeper than that. El Teniente, for example, it's probably 13 billion tons left, and they've been mining for 50 years already. It's a big block cave underground mine at this point. The open pits have been done for decades.
What brought me into becoming a shareholder was after you released the mag survey, and I could see that undercover, just south of where these horsetail high grade veins are, is you had a desert had been covering up this target, and it's never been mined there. There's never been any drilling.
That area of the property is completely dune covered.
Yeah.
So it's never been the guys doing the artisanal mining. They're not using any kind of ventilation underground. It's very, very low capital, undercapitalized, I would say.
Yeah.
So once they get into a bit of deeper overburden, they're not doing any geology. They basically take their bulldozer, scrape off the sand. If it's mineralized, they start sampling and mining, and that's the level of the science. So it's an incredibly unique situation where people have been mining for probably a century and nobody's actually mapped it.
Yeah. That's what I liked about it, because something like this should you put together just let alone a billion tons, 100 million tons. They're for a bulk mining situation like the Lundins, they're mining with a 0.15, 0.2 cutoff grade for their copper, and the iron oxide copper gold systems. The grade tends to be very homogeneous, so that's why they're so great to mine, because you don't get that nuggety effect where it's really high grade here and then it's barren, like 100 million tons even at 0.5% copper would be worth in the market several $100 million in market cap for a company that has an enterprise value of about 40 million and about 10 million in the bank. And I've never seen before where there was high grade veins being mined by artisanal miners at a 12% cutoff grade. And there's gold in there, but apparently they're not getting credit for it when they bring it to the smelter. But you've also got gold as well, like close to, looking at the tables, 0.5 gram gold, so that's
in some areas there's very high grade gold. It's actually never been prospected as a gold project.
Yeah.
We have areas where we see better than 10 gram grades. That's not necessarily directly affiliated with the copper as well, so that may be a story for another day.
Yeah, but it's a huge land package too. And I did some research. The company that held it before, they held it during a time when copper prices had collapsed and they ran out of money, so they never got around to prospecting and doing any geophysics in the area where you discovered this 4 kilometer size anomaly that's half a kilometer deep and several kilometers wide. It's like the math on that, the tonnage is, you're looking at, you stated before, 500 million to 1 billion tons it could be. And that's very exciting. That's very exciting, especially when anyone listening, you should go to look at the last press release from August 17th, I believe it was, where they released the mag survey, and you can see these targets and the scale of them. And you can see the vein systems displaying off of just this one big bulbous, bright mag anomaly. It's really awesome. So are you considering? I know with Amarita that your strategy there is that you had your core area and then you've added land to it. Are you considering? Is there any possibility of adding more land to this area at all, or is that something you've thought about?
It's a little more difficult in this part of Chile. There's no open land, it's staked perpetually. So we are looking at some possible pieces. I won't say where for better reasons.
You don't want to drive the prices up.
We've also, since being active and through our relationships with the vendor and whatnot, have been presented with some other really compelling targets, which we are also considering for the future. So stay tuned on that.
Okay, good. That's good to know.
But yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic region to work in. So, and copper, I think, has really going to be a commodity that's really strong future, given what's happening with the electrification of the grid and worldwide, really. It's what governments are trying to do is going to require an incredible amount of this technology.
Oh, definitely. So I'm guesstimating that with the private placement, you probably have about 10 million in the bank, around there. Is that?
That's probably a little over that right now.
Yeah.
Well, once it closes.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, was oversubscribed, and we didn't upsize it at this point because it'll more than take us through what we need to do at this stage, and with some success, obviously, we expect to be re-rated. So
yeah. So what? I guess that's a good topic to broach here. What is the plan now that you've got over 10 million in the bank? What is the timelines that we as the investors should look for?
Well, as soon as I hang up, I'll be doing a call with the team just to finalize the next phase of drilling. Mm-hmm. The drill will be coring by September 10th.
Okay.
Now.
Wow.
We had initially thought September 1st, but because of the sand dunes, we opted to delay it and get a drill with a track mounted drill because it just saves a lot of road building and whatnot to go across. It can walk across those dunes and things like that. It's just more efficient and will save us money in the long run and time. So that is molding now and should be coring by September 10th. So that's the schedule. We've got 5 areas. If you look at that last press release, they're laid out in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that'll be the.
So you'll be testing those anomalies, and we'll know pretty quickly whether or not we're looking at a $500 million market cap in the next few months or not, Yeah. Like, it's.
And I will say some of the things that we're looking at are very compelling as well. So there should be, some good interest in those. There's already some drilling on those that.
Oh, the possible land acquisitions you spoke of that.
Yeah, that's right.
That's good.
And when those close, that should also be an interesting addition to the story.
Mm-hmm. So just for, if you could humor me with a little bit of your geological acumen here, for your average investor, what is the importance of it being an iron oxide copper gold system as opposed to any other, in relation to, also Chile, which is, I'm sure some people don't realize that it is the number one jurisdiction in the world for copper.
Well, you get good scale, typically better grade than a lot of porphyries, although porphyries in Chile can be extremely high grade also. And really the location is more important almost because this part of Chile, you get a lot of big deposits, but we're not at 4,000 meters.
Right.
We're not in an area where, you have to build, like it's a seismic area when you get up into the high Andes. The engineering and costs related to tailings containment, things like that, they're massive construction projects. We're close to water. That's a big one in this part of the world. So, all of those things add up to, put it this way, again, if we're successful, it'll be of interest to every major. And all the majors in the copper business are in Chile. So
yeah, that's another reason why I invested in it. As an investor, for those who are listening, you have to seek out projects that are of a scale that make them world class, or else there's really no point. No one's going to buy a small mine, and it will just sit, and no one's going to lend money to build a small mine that's marginal, in this world. Yeah. So,
Doc, I'm going to have to jump on another call here shortly.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yes, you have to talk to the team and get the drills turning. Yeah, so I think that's a good introduction to the story here. I will definitely be following along, and love to do some updates with you as drill results come in. And just a final thing that I'd like to say, just for those who are listening, is that many of the members of the Amarita team are working with David on this project, and as you've heard him say, that he left money on the table on this private placement. And that is pretty much par for the course for David, that I find the reason why I enjoy so much investing my money with him is that he's been such a good steward of it. And that's very important, to find a management team that isn't going to abuse the treasury for their own self-gain. I've found that David and the other members of Amarita that are involved with this, that their payday comes from the share price doing well, from the company growing. So I really appreciate that fact. I remember with Amarita where Eric Sprott came in too late for the second round, and you had to apologize and say, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to open the book again and dilute my shareholders anymore." This is the type of person that's leading this company. And some people have said, how can David lead two companies? He was the global exploration manager of Falconbridge, that was bought out for $22 billion. He was basically running 10 or 20 junior mining companies at once for that company. So I think he's more than capable of handling two. That's my own 2 cents on it. So David, I really appreciate you taking the time to update us, and I look forward to the continued success. And the floor is yours for any last comments.
No, I really just stay tuned. We've got a very exciting drill program coming up, and we're really looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a good day.